In the Old Testament, the people in the desert, led by Moses, there are many ways in which God was purifying them, and they had many temptations, and they failed so miserably, one after another. And yet it was a time of great purification. Over time, God helped them. These kinds of temptations that they had in the Old Testament, Jesus is going to encounter in the New Testament. And as he encounters them, he goes back to the Old Testament, but this time Jesus, as the devil reintroduces these temptations, Jesus is able successfully to be able to fight them off and to be able to model for us how to be able to live a life of discipleship. During this time of Lent, it's a time for us to be able to take a look at these temptations. Because sometimes it's hard to remember all these words, I just put them in simple words like this. The first temptation, for bread, for comfort, for pleasure. Use that P word. The temptation for pleasure in our life, and we all have it. The second temptation, I'll give you all of these kingdoms. I'll give you power, all these material possessions. And the third one is pride. You can do it. If you are who you say you are and you are so special, he'll preserve you. Pride. Now, counter those with the virtue that we need to be able to overcome that. First one, pleasure. How do we overcome that? Take a look at the vows that the religious take. Poverty, chastity, obedience. And they match up quite well with these temptations. Against pleasure, I would match chastity. And see, during this time of Lent, this is a time for us to ask ourselves, what about my comfort level? Where am I so comfortable? Where do I need to maybe be a little more ascetic? How about the area of chastity in my life? To take that promise, that vow that the religious do, we all have to live it through our own baptism. The second one, power, possessions. Poverty is the counter to that. And the Lord calls us to simplify our lives and to be able to experience in our poverty our need for God. The third one, pride. The remedy for pride is obedience. Obedience is so difficult, whether it be a spouse, whether it be a friend, whether it be our work, whether it be the Pope, whether it be God himself. And so this Lent, we ask the Lord to purify us as we walk through our own deserts. Lord, help us to be able to face the temptations in our own life of pleasure, power, pride, but help us to develop these virtues of poverty, chastity, obedience. I pray that this kind of confession, this kind of reformation, this kind of coming before the Lord, as we ask the Lord to heal us and give us his mercy, that leads to a real and definite intimacy with our Lord Jesus Christ.